He threw the divorce papers at my chest, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. "You have 36 hours to get out. My new girlfriend owns everything." He was performing for his 27-year-old mistress, but they did not know the truth. This luxury estate was in a secret trust under my name. When she stepped inside, she was not taking possession. She was walking onto the scene of her own legal execution. "My name is Skylar Blackstream. I am 38 years old, and I am an estate planning attorney at Helix Gate Legal Collective. I specialize in protecting assets, usually from the people who think they are entitled to them." I was standing on the slate walkway leading up to my home, Blackstream Reserve, a sprawling, private luxury estate tucked away in the hills of the wealthiest zip code in the western United States. The air was still. It was the kind of quiet that costs a fortune to maintain. That quiet was shattered by my husband, Curtis Beck. He was a portfolio manager at Auric Crest Capital, a man who measured his worth in basis points and market share. Today, he was measuring it in decibels. He did not just hand me the papers, he threw them. A thick sheaf of legal documents, stapled and hostile, hit me square in the chest. The corner of the stack was sharp enough to sting through my silk blouse. "Nova owns all of this," Curtis bellowed. His voice was pitched for performance, aimed not just at me but at the expensive, silent houses surrounding us. "You are to be off this estate in 36 hours. Skylar, 36? The papers scattered at my feet on the stone path I had personally selected 5 years prior. Dissolution of marriage, petition for division of assets. It was a declaration of war, disguised as a legal filing. This was not a private discussion. This was a theater. I could see them. Mrs. Davies, 3 houses down, paused her power walk, her oversized sunglasses aimed directly at us from behind her meticulously trimmed hedge. A young guy I recognized from the tennis courts, the one who always hogged the reservation sheet, had stopped his morning jog. He actually pulled his AirPods out, the better to hear the drama. Even the security guard in the front gatehouse, a man I exchanged polite waves with every single day, was staring intently at the monitor feed from Camera 4, which was pointed directly at my front door. Out of the corner of my eye, near the ornamental fountain, a landscaping truck had slowed, and I saw the distinct red light of a phone recording from the passenger window. Curtis had his audience, and then there was her, Nova Kincaid, the new girlfriend, the 27-year-old abundance and wealth coach. She was leaning against Curtis's new SUV, a gleaming black monster that still had temporary plates. She was a caricature of wellness culture, all taut limbs, expensive yoga wear, and a high, tight ponytail. The side of the vehicle featured a decal, professionally applied, in swirling gold script, Nova Rise Sanctuary. She was not looking at me with pity. She was looking at me with triumph. She offered a small, insincere tilt of her head, a practiced gesture of faux commiseration. But her eyes were glittering. This was her victory lap. Curtis took a step closer to me, energized by the attention. He was an investment guy. He knew how to project confidence he did not necessarily possess. He needed Nova to see him as the conqueror. "I am making this perfectly clear," he shouted, louder this time, ensuring the jogger got the full script. "Nova is the new beneficiary. She is standing on the title for this entire property. You," he jabbed a finger at me, "are nothing but a temporary guest as of this moment. This is her luxury estate." He kept repeating that phrase, luxury estate. It was a trophy word, something he was physically handing to her to prove his value, to prove he had successfully traded up from his aging, 38-year-old lawyer wife to this vibrant, young manifestation expert. He was presenting her with my life as a closing gift. I remained silent. I let the humiliation wash over me. A cold tide. I felt the sting on my chest where the papers hit. I saw the judgment in the eyes of the guard at the gate. I felt the vibration of their assumptions. The poor woman, kicked out, replaced, left with nothing. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for reading. If you have ever been publicly humiliated, if you have ever had someone try to rip your life away from you right on the front lawn, you know this feeling. It is a unique kind of paralysis. But here's a little piece of free legal advice from me to you. Loud voices fade. Shouting does not hold up in court. What holds up is ink on paper, notarized signatures, and routing numbers. I suggest you stay until the end of this story. The payoff is worth it. While I stood there, absorbing the performance, my mind was not panicking, it was calculating. My internal legal team was already filing motions. Curtis kept yelling about who owned the estate. He was using the word like a club. What he did not know, what he had somehow never bothered to verify in 7 years of marriage, was the truth. Blackstream Reserve. This entire sprawling property, the gates, the main house, the guest house, the stables, and the 20 acres of protected woodland behind it, was not community property. It was not his asset to give away. It was held entirely within the Blackstream Legacy Trust. It was an irrevocable, premarital trust established by me, using funds inherited from my mother and father, a trust of which I, Skylar Blackstream, was the sole trustee. Curtis was not a co-owner. He was not even a named beneficiary. In the cold, hard language of the legal documents filed with the state, my husband was, ironically, exactly what he had just called me, a temporary guest. His voice finally cracked from the effort of his public declaration. He was panting slightly, high on adrenaline and self-importance. Curtis gave me 36 hours to get out of Nova's house. I had 36 hours to turn the luxury estate that bore my family name into the stage for their public, legal, and financial execution. You want to know why I almost smiled while being evicted from my own land, to understand why his performance meant nothing. We have to rewind. We have to go back 7 years, to a time before the gates, before the betrayal, and before I foolishly believed that two people could build something real without reading the fine print. I did not learn about money from textbooks. I learned about it at my kitchen table. My mother, Eleanor Blackstream, was a former federal tax investigator. Her specialty was not just finding mistakes on a 1040, it was finding phantom corporations in the Cayman Islands, discovering hidden art collections in Swiss free ports, and unwinding knotted webs of shell companies designed to make millions disappear. My father died when I was young, leaving us with just enough to be comfortable but not enough to be secure. So Eleanor made us secure. She left the government and went private, becoming a consultant, a forensic accountant, which was a polite term for a bloodhound. She supported us by meticulously dismantling the financial deceptions of the very wealthy. I grew up listening to her on the phone, her voice calm and precise as she explained to some high-powered attorney how his client's offshore holding company was, in fact, just a post office box registered to his college roommate. She taught me that money is a story. Some people write fiction, others write nonfiction. Her job was to spot the fiction. When I chose my own path, I went to law school. I picked estate planning and trust law. It was close to her world, but it felt like flipping the board. Instead of spending my life chasing other people's hidden assets, I would spend mine protecting the assets of good people, building legal fortresses so strong that no one could ever tear them down. I built walls. My mother reverse-engineered them. I was good at it. I understood the language, which is why I noticed Curtis Beck. It was 7 years ago, at a fintech conference in a cavernous, over-air-conditioned convention center in a city known for its steel and glass. He was on a panel about risk management. I was there for a breakout session on digital assets and estate law. We met at the cocktail hour, both of us trying to avoid the same obnoxious venture capitalist. He did not use pickup lines. He started a conversation. He complained about a high-net-worth client who was impossible to please. I countered with a story about a family fighting over a will that had a fatal loophole. We found ourselves speaking the same language, a shared dialect of risk, liability, and the true value of money. He was grounded, pragmatic, and seemed utterly unimpressed by the smoke and mirrors of his own industry. We were married 6 months later, not a grand affair, but a small, elegant ceremony at a stone lodge high in the mountains. We exchanged vows as the sun set over a canyon. The air sharp and clean. We promised to build something solid, not based on illusion. I believed him. I believed us. For the first few years, we were solid. We were a team, both driven, both successful. We lived in a condo downtown, our lives a predictable and comfortable rhythm of work dinners, weekend trips, and strategic planning. Then the opportunity came up. A large parcel of land, undeveloped, was coming onto the market in the hills just outside the city. It was a distressed asset from a collapsed hedge fund. It was beautiful, wild, and private. We walked the property one Sunday afternoon. Curtis saw the view, the potential, the status. I saw a legacy. When it came time to purchase, I did exactly what my mother had trained me to do. I used the inheritance my father had left, combined with the portfolio my mother had built for me from her own earnings. I did not buy it in my name, or in our joint names. I formed the Blackstream Legacy Trust. I drafted the documents myself, line by line, clause by clause. It was an ironclad, irrevocable trust. The land, and everything that would be built upon it, was the core asset of that trust, and the sole trustee, the only person with the power to sign, to sell, to leverage, or to change anything, was me. I remember my mother's voice, a constant, loving echo in my head. Assets are one thing, Skylar. Control is everything. Always know who can actually sign the paper. Curtis saw the paperwork. Of course, he was a finance guy, but he saw it through the lens of a husband, not an analyst. He saw our money going in, even though it was legally and technically mine. He saw the blueprints for the house. He started calling it our place, before the foundation was even poured. Our house, our estate. I loved him. I was in love, and I was not on guard. I did not correct him. I let him call it ours because, in my heart, I thought we were building that solid life we promised each other. In my mind, the trust was just a formality, a smart legal structure to protect our future from outside liability. I never imagined the liability would come from inside. So we built Blackstream Reserve. We built the long, winding drive, the main house with its clean lines and glass walls, the infinity pool that reflected the sky. We moved in. We joined the community. Life inside the gates is a performance. It is all about maintaining the illusion. 24/7 security at the gate, not just for safety, but to remind you that you are separate. Weekend brunches where everyone discusses their children's achievements and their latest trips, but never their anxieties. Charity galas where millions are raised in an evening, and the primary currency is not cash, but visibility. Everyone here is hiding something. They hide their debts, their addictions, their failing marriages. They hide it all behind perfect landscaping and floor-to-ceiling windows. I knew the game. My job was to write the legal script for it. Curtis thrived in this environment, at first, but I started to see the small cracks. He worked in an industry obsessed with youth, with the new. He was brilliant, but he was approaching 40. He would make jokes, but they had a bitter edge. He would mention the 25-year-old analyst in his office who was already pulling in half his salary by trading crypto derivatives he did not fully understand. He talked more and more about AI, about algorithms making his entire department obsolete within 5 years. He was a man running a race, constantly looking over his shoulder, terrified of losing his relevance. I tried to reassure him. I told him his experience was his value. I told him we had built a fortress. I thought our marriage was the one place he did not have to perform. I thought, at least within the walls of Blackstream Reserve, we were on the same side, partners against the world. I truly believed that, right up until the moment the first crack appeared, and the smell of cheap perfume and expensive desperation walked into our home. It was a Tuesday night. I remember because Tuesday was my late night at the office, finalizing trust documents. I usually got home around 8. Curtis was always home by 6:30. That night, I walked in at 8:05. The house was quiet. My heels clicked on the marble floor of the foyer. No music playing, no TV in the den. "Curtis," I called out. He emerged from his study, already halfway up the main staircase, his back to me. "Hey, long day. Just heading up." His voice was off, too bright, too fast. "You just got in?" I asked, shrugging off my coat. Yeah, about 20 minutes ago. Client dinner ran over. He was at the top of the stairs when I walked into the light of the foyer. He turned, and the overhead chandelier caught it. A fine champagne-colored shimmer, like highlighter, was smudged right on the collar of his white button-down shirt. I froze. My brain, the lawyer part of my brain, started cataloging. Exhibit A, then came the smell. It hit me as he turned. It was not his cologne. It was not my perfume. It was something heavy and sweet, almost suffocating, vanilla and something synthetic, trying to be musk. It was the kind of perfume that screams for attention. He saw me looking. His hand instinctively went to his collar, a gesture of pure guilt. "What is it?" he asked, his voice suddenly defensive. I held his gaze. I thought about the shimmer. I thought about the smell. I thought about the 2-hour gap between his usual arrival and mine. "Nothing," I said, my voice perfectly even. "You just look tired. I'm going to pour a glass of wine." He did not come down for wine. He did not say goodnight. He went straight into our master bathroom and I heard the shower turn on. A sound so loud and sudden it felt like an act of aggression, an attempt to wash away the evidence I had already seen and smelled. He was trying to scrub the shimmer from his skin, but I had already logged it in my memory. A ripple had been left in the still air of our home, and it was not going away. A few days later, he was all energy. He announced it over breakfast, all smiles and artificial enthusiasm. "I did something," he said, pouring coffee. "I joined Forge Pulse Athletics." Forge Pulse was the newest, most obnoxiously exclusive gym in the city. It was all over Instagram, a place for tech bros and influencers to biohack themselves. "That's a change," I said. "I thought you hated that scene." "No, I need to shake things up," he said, avoiding my eyes, focusing on the coffee cup. "I'm not getting any younger. My energy is low. I met this new coach, and she's incredible. She's really going to help me hit my peak performance." "A coach?" "Yeah, Nova Kincaid." He said the name easily, too easily. "She's only 27, but she's brilliant. She's not just a trainer. She calls herself a body and money alignment coach." I almost choked on my coffee. A body and money alignment coach. Curtis, the man who lived by quarterly reports and market data, the man who mocked wellness retreats as scams for the board, was now unironically using a term that sounded like it came from a crystal shop. "Interesting," I said. "What does that align with?" "You wouldn't get it, Skylar. It's about frequency. It's about vibrational wealth." He said it with a straight face. He was parroting her. This was not his language. This was an infection. The transformation was immediate and alarming. Suddenly, our laundry room was full of expensive, designer-label athletic wear I had never seen before. Black, sleek, technical fabrics that probably cost $400 a pair. New tubs of protein powder appeared on the counter, with labels that promised cellular regeneration and ascension. And he started talking. He talked about manifesting a new client, about clearing his abundance blocks, about living in his truth. The man who used to read the Wall Street Journal cover to cover was now quoting buzzwords from a 27-year-old. The old Curtis would have laughed this person out of the room. This new Curtis was desperate to believe. My mother's voice was sharp in my head. "People don't change, Skylar. They just reveal." I did not confront him. Confrontation gives the other side time to prepare, to hide, to build their defenses. I am a lawyer. I do not confront. I investigate. I opened the one thing we still truly shared, our joint high-limit credit card account. I did it on my office computer. The one with the secure server. I scrolled past the usual: mortgages, utilities, dinners, and then I found them. Nova Riyadh Ascension LLC. Charge $5,000. Category Consulting Services. Nova Riyadh Ascension LLC. Charge $10,000. Category Retreat Deposit. Nova Riyadh Ascension LLC. Charge $7,500. category one-on-one intensive. There were 3 more, all within the last 6 weeks, all categorized as business expenses. But they were not routing to Auric Crest Capital. They were routing to a limited liability company I had never heard of. A company that conveniently shared a name with his new coach. My hands were perfectly steady. I took a screenshot of every single charge. I exported the statements for the last 6 months. I opened a new, encrypted folder on my private drive. I created a new spreadsheet, giving it a harmless name, Q4 Household Expenses. I began to populate the cells: date, amount, vendor, stated purpose. My mother's other favorite saying, "Don't ever react when you're angry. Get a spreadsheet. The numbers will tell you the truth, and they will never lie to protect your feelings." The spreadsheet grew. The business trips started. First, it was a fintech summit in Lake Arden, a 2-day trip. The hotel receipt, which he carelessly left in his briefcase, was not for a conference-rate room at the Marriott. It was for a romantic getaway package at a lakeside boutique hotel. Then, a client meeting in Sunwell Springs. He was gone for 3 days. The charge that hit the card was from a spa, and the line item, which I saw when I clicked the transaction details, read, "Couples Serenity Massage." Another trip to Cinder Ridge for an investor presentation. The pain was a physical thing. It was a cold, hard knot in my stomach. It was the taste of acid at the back of my throat. It is a strange, hollow feeling to look at the man you built a life with and see a complete stranger. A stranger who is not only lying to you, but is also stealing from you. He was using our money to fund his affair. The worst part was the performance. That weekend, we had a dinner party. One of our neighbors, a partner at a different firm, was celebrating a promotion. I had to stand there, in a dress Curtis had bought me, smiling. I had to sip champagne and make small talk about interest rates and summer travel plans. I remember laughing at a joke, the sound thin and brittle in my own ears, while my phone was locked in my purse, holding a screenshot of a couple's massage receipt. I was living inside the lie, becoming one of the women I always pitied, the ones who smiled perfectly at the galas, hiding the cracks. I went to bed that night. Next to him, he was asleep, breathing deeply, smelling of expensive soap and that new, strange protein powder. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling of the house I had paid for. The house is held in the Blackstream Legacy Trust. And I made a decision. This was not a failing marriage. This was not a midlife crisis or a simple, sordid affair. The charges, the LLC, the coaching buzzwords, the systematic extraction of money under the guise of consulting. This was a pattern. This was a financial operation. This was the case, and I was going to investigate it as one. My nights were no longer for sleeping. They were for research. The spreadsheet I had named Q4 Household Expenses became my primary file. I started with the simple things. We had a family locator app on our phones, something we set up years ago for safety on ski trips. I opened it. Curtis was, according to his calendar, at a late-night strategy session downtown. The little blue dot with his name on it was not downtown. It was at Forge Pulse Athletics. It was 10:17 p.m. The gym closed at 9. The dot had been stationary at that address for 3 hours. I opened a secure browser window. I typed in her name, Nova Kincaid. It did not take long to find her public-facing life. Her Instagram handle was Nova Kincaid, Ascend. It was a curated nightmare of counterfeit luxury. The entire feed was a performance of vibrational wealth. There she was, in a complicated yoga pose on the balcony of a resort I recognized. There she was, holding a champagne flute on a yacht. The tag for the rental company just visible on the cushion behind her. There she was, leaning against a rented Lamborghini. The caption reading, "Designing the life you deserve." What is your frequency? It was all photos of villas, private jets, and expensive meals. But nothing looked owned. It all looked temporary, rented for the hour, staged for the post. I went back to my spreadsheet. I looked at the dates of Curtis's business trips. March 12th, Cinder Ridge, investor presentation. I scrolled through Nova's feed. March 12th, there she was, wrapped in a plush white robe, a fireplace roaring behind her. The geotag, the lodge at Cinder Ridge. The caption, "Receiving the abundance of the mountains. So grateful for this private retreat." April 2nd, Sunwell Springs, client meeting. I scrolled again. April 2nd, a video this time. Nova, in a bikini, stepping into a natural hot spring, steam rising around her. The tag, Sunwell Springs Resort. The caption, "Aligning my body and my bank account. The water here is pure energy." I pulled up the Locator app's history. I tapped April 2nd. Curtis's blue dot, which was supposed to be in a meeting room, was sitting directly on top of the Sunwell Springs Resort icon for 72 hours. The pattern was perfect. The correlation was 100%. His business trips were her wellness retreats. My heart was cold, but my brain was on fire. This was no longer just cheating. This was a conspiracy. He was not just lying to me. He was financing her entire fake lifestyle, a lifestyle she was then using as a marketing tool to lure in others. Next, I went to the state's business entity database. I typed in Nova Riyadh Ascension LLC. It popped up. Just as I suspected, the filing was a mess, a digital footprint of pure laziness. It was a shelf corporation, filed by a third-party service. The articles of organization were incomplete. There was no valid tax identification number listed. The registered agent's address was a post office box in a strip mall mail center. The business purpose was listed as general consulting, the laziest, vaguest category possible. It was a shell, a ghost. It was a digital bucket designed to receive money and obscure its origin. And my husband was filling it from our joint account. I escalated my search. I left our joint credit cards and logged into our main joint bank account, the one we paid the mortgage from, the one that held our liquid capital. I was not looking for $5,000 charges anymore. I was looking for wire transfers. I found them. February 28th. Wire transfer, $25,000 to Sanctum Harbor Retreats, LLC. The memo line, typed in by Curtis himself, investment in Nova's brand. March 20th. Wire transfer, $40,000 to Novarise Holdings, Memo Seed Capital. April 14th. Wire transfer, $50,000 to Nova Riyadh Ascension LLC, Memo Founders Contribution. A total of $115,000, wired from our joint account to her various shell companies in less than 10 weeks. This was not paying for coaching. This was venture capital for a con artist. He was not just her client. He was her angel investor. I went back to her website. The slick, minimalist page for Novarise Sanctuary. I needed to know who else was in this sanctuary. I clicked on testimonials, and the case broke wide open. It was a gallery of successful, smiling faces, professional headshots next to glowing quotes. Harper Linwood. Escar. The name hit me first. Harper was one of the most ruthless, high-profile divorce attorneys in the city. Her quote, "Nova realigned my focus after my own difficult separation, helping me find my power and double my Q1 billings." Brooke Valencia, owner of the Valencia Boutiques, the most expensive clothing stores in town. Nova's intuitive guidance helped me scale my brand and break through my limiting beliefs. Dr. Elise Marrow, a senior executive at a major pharmaceutical research company. Working with Nova is like a vitamin for the soul, clearing out the toxins and unlocking true potential. And it continued. Marcus Hale, a hedge fund manager I knew by reputation. Damon Price, a tech founder who had just survived a brutal burnout. I stared at the screen. I was not a wife anymore. I was a profiler. What did they all have in common? One, they all had significant, independent wealth. Two, they were all, like Curtis, in their late 30s or 40s, at the top of their game, but old enough to be anxious about it. Three, they were all vulnerable. Harper, fresh off a public divorce. Damon, recovering from burnout. Marcus, whose fund had a bad year. Elise, who was rumored to have been passed over for CEO. This was not a random collection of clients. This was a portfolio. It was a curated list of high-value, high-anxiety individuals. Nova was not a wealth coach. She was a predator, and this was her preferred hunting ground. She was targeting successful people who were terrified of losing their edge, and she was selling them their own youth and relevance back to them. For $50,000 a wire transfer. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage, a cold, clean, legal rage. I picked up the phone. It was past midnight, but I knew she would be awake. My mother always kept an investigator's hours. She answered on the second ring, her voice clear and alert, not a trace of sleep in it. "Skylar? Mom, I need to talk to you, not as your daughter, as a consultant." I laid it out. I did not use emotional words. I did not say cheating or affair. I gave her the data, the LLCs, the wire transfers, the memo lines, the Instagram posts, the testimonial page, the pattern. I spoke for 10 minutes without interruption. There was a long silence on the line when I finished. I heard the faint sound of her typing. "Sanctum Harbor Retreats," she said finally, her voice flat and cold as steel. "Registered in Nevada. That one is sloppy. The agent on file is the same one she used for Nova Riyadh. She's lazy. She's using a kit." "Mom," I said, my voice thick. "What is this?" "This," Eleanor Blackstream said, and her tone was the one I remembered from my childhood, the one she used when she had found the hidden ledger. "This is not an affair. Skylar, this is a financial exploitation model. It's a high-touch, low-volume romance scam targeted at high-net-worth individuals. She's not a mistress. She's an operator, and your husband is not a man in love. He's a mark." She paused. "You called me because you already knew that. You saw the pattern. Now, the only question is what you do with it. My advice: do not look away." We hung up. I sat in the dark of my office for a long time. The house around me, my fortress, was silent. An operator, a mark. My mother was right. The illusion of my marriage was gone. The illusion of us was gone. All that was left was the case. I was no longer the victim. I was the plaintiff. I was going to treat this exactly like the most complex, high-stakes estate fraud case of my career. My goal was not just to divorce my husband. My goal was to dismantle his new life, piece by piece, using the two things he and his mistress fundamentally misunderstood and disrespected: the law and my name. The foundation of any good legal case is the paperwork. My case was no different. The next night, after Curtis was asleep, a state he fell into quickly these days, exhausted from his double life, I went to my home office. Not the shared study, but my private office, the one secured with a biometric lock that my mother had insisted on. I pulled the original, hard copy binder for the Blackstream Legacy Trust. It was thick, bound in dark blue leather, the embossed letters cool beneath my fingers. I sat and read every single line I had written 7 years ago. It was, if I had to say so myself, a work of art. Blackstream Reserve was not just the house. As the core asset of the trust, it was legally bundled with 2 other undeveloped parcels of land in neighboring states and a significant portfolio of municipal bonds. The trust was structured as a dynasty trust, designed to be untouchable by creditors, lawsuits, and most importantly, future spouses. The language was clear. As sole trustee, I had absolute, singular, and total control over every asset within it. Curtis was not named. He had no claim. He had no power. I had built a fortress. Now, I was going to use it as a weapon. I opened my secure email archive and searched Curtis's name and the word trust. It did not take long. An email from him, dated almost exactly 6 months ago, right when the gym visits and the new buzzwords had started. Subject: quick question, body, hey, Sky. Could you send me a copy of the trust agreement for the house? The one you set up? Just want to review our full financial picture for my own files. See, I remembered the email. I had been busy with a trial. I had sent him a simple, 1-page summary of the trust's purpose, but not the full, 90-page operative document. I had not sent the asset schedule or the signature pages. I had, in my misplaced trust, thought he was just being financially responsible. I saw it now. He was not being responsible. He was doing due diligence. He was assessing the value of the asset he was planning to leverage to impress his new partner. He had seen the summary, seen the words Blackstream Reserve, and assumed that ours meant half his. He had built his entire fantasy of bestowing this luxury estate on Nova based on a willful misreading of a document he was not even a party to. He had, in effect, started planning to give away a house he did not own. The next morning, I went to my office at Helix Gate. I scheduled an urgent client matter with Ben Carter, the only other partner at the firm I trusted implicitly. Ben was our head of litigation, a man who loved complex fraud cases. We sat in his corner office, the door closed. "I'm not updating a client's plan, Ben," I said. "I'm updating mine, and I'm preparing for a fight." I gave him the 10-minute version, the shell companies, the wire transfers, the Instagram feed. He did not flinch. He just listened, his pen still. "What do you need?" he asked when I was done. "I need to add a trigger to the Blackstream Legacy Trust. Quietly. Today." We put it together in an hour. It was a beautiful, vicious little shard of legal code. Then we added an amendment, a springing provision. Under it, any attempt by an unauthorized third party to file a lien, execute a transfer, or record a lis pendens against the trust's core asset Blackstream Reserve, or to use that asset as collateral, would be instantly and automatically flagged. But it would not just be flagged to me. The provision mandated that a sealed packet of information including the full trust document, the deed, and a summary of assets be instantly delivered to the Western State Financial Integrity Bureau. It was a tripwire. The moment Curtis or Nova tried to legally touch the house, they would inadvertently be reporting their own fraud to the state. "He's going to find out you amended it," Ben warned. "I know," I said. "He's going to find out when he's already in the trap." I went home that afternoon. Curtis was at the gym. I went to the library, a room he never used, and opened a panel behind a false row of books. It revealed a small, climate-controlled server closet my mother had helped me design when we built the house. It was where the brain of the house lived. The security system for Blackstream Reserve was robust. We had 24 cameras, covering every angle of the exterior, the gates, the guest house, and the main entry points. I sat at the terminal and reactivated the master protocols. I had turned off most of the interior alerts for privacy. I turned them back on. I rerouted the storage. Instead of just recording to the local hard drive, which Curtis could potentially access or destroy, I set every camera to auto-upload on a continuous, encrypted loop to a secure cloud server registered to my law firm. From that moment on, nothing that happened on the property would be lost. Then, I did what I had been avoiding. I reviewed the logs from the past 6 weeks. I did not need to watch long. I found the footage. Curtis, using his key to open the guest house. Nova, walking in as if she owned the place. I skipped past the parts that made my stomach clench. I was not looking for proof of infidelity. I had that. I was looking for proof of fraud. I found it. A camera in the guest house living room, an angle I had insisted on to monitor the art on the wall. The date was 2 weeks ago. Curtis was not there. It was just Nova, sitting on my sofa, on a video call. The audio was crystal clear. "No, I'm telling you, it's done," she was saying, laughing, flipping her hair. "The main house is incredible. This is just the guest cottage. Curtis is transferring the entire estate into my name. He's just waiting for the right moment to finalize things with her." The person on the other end must have asked a question. "Of course it's real," Nova snapped, her voice suddenly hard. "It's called the Nova Rise Sanctuary. We're launching in 3 months. And his name?" She lowered her voice. "My partner is a major fund manager. This is a billion-dollar play." My blood ran cold. Transferring the entire estate into my name. It was not just a fantasy. It was a concrete lie she was telling. I followed the new thread. I used a VPN and a proxy server to start digging into Nova Rise Sanctuary. It was not just an Instagram handle. She had built a private, password-protected webinar. She had private Telegram and Signal groups. I used a fake email and a burner number to get access to a preview webinar she had hosted last week. I watched it. It was her, standing in front of a green screen. But the image projected behind her was the infinity pool at Blackstream Reserve. My pool. She was selling founder memberships for a one-time investment of $25,000. Founders would get first access to the retreats, a share of future profits, and priority booking at the sanctuary. It was fractional ownership. She was selling shares in a property she did not own, had never owned, and would never own. She was not just conning Curtis. She was using my house as the primary asset in a large-scale investment scam. This was not a divorce case. This was wire fraud. This was a felony. The estate was not her prize. It was now my evidence. I closed the laptop. The entire 36-hour plan downloaded into my brain. Fully formed. Curtis wanted a performance. He wanted to humiliate me. He wanted to throw me out in front of our neighbors. Fine. I would let him. I would let him stand at the gates and declare to the world that Nova Kincaid was the new owner of Blackstream Reserve. I would let him put on his entire show, with all the cameras rolling. And then, just as Nova crossed the threshold, believing she had won, I would pull the curtain back. I would not just be defending myself, I would be springing the trap I had just set. He wanted to give me 36 hours to get out. I would use those 36 hours to make sure that when she walked in, she was not walking into her new home. She was walking into the central piece of evidence in a criminal investigation. I went back to Nova's website. The testimonials page. It was no longer a list of endorsements. It was a witness list. It was a potential class action. My job is research. I trace assets. Now, I would trace people. I moved from their smiling headshots to LinkedIn, to state bar associations, to SEC filings, to glossy magazine interviews. I was building a profile, not just of them, but of their pain. Harper Linwood, Esquire, the toughest divorce lawyer in the state. I found her firm's blog and a personal note from 3 months ago announcing she was navigating her own conscious uncoupling. She was a shark, but she was a wounded one, swimming in the same waters she usually hunted in. Vulnerability. A public, professional separation. Brooke Valencia, owner of the Valencia boutiques. I found a feature on her in a local luxury circular. She was a sole proprietor, built her brand from nothing, and had just signed a massive new lease on a flagship store. Vulnerability. Total financial overextension, betting everything on her own name. Dr. Elise Marrow, the pharmaceutical executive. Industry news from 4 months back told the story her longtime mentor, the CEO, had retired, and the board had passed Elise over, hiring an outsider. Vulnerability. A deep professional betrayal. A career plateau. A crisis of relevance. Marcus Hale, the hedge fund manager, his fund, Auric Crest's main competitor, had a catastrophic prior year, losing nearly 30% of its value. He was facing a shareholder revolt, vulnerability, extreme professional pressure, his reputation in tatters. Damon Price, the tech founder, his startup was a media darling until a brutal expose on its toxic burnout culture. He had just returned from a 6-month, highly publicized sabbatical. Vulnerability. Mental and physical exhaustion, desperate for a new narrative. I saw it, the high-value, high-vulnerability portfolio. These were not just rich people, they were proud, brilliant people, all of whom were, in that precise moment, terrified of failing. They were all standing on a private cliff edge, and Nova had walked up to each of them, offering not a safety net, but a pair of wings. This required precision. I could not just call them. These were people insulated by assistants and lawyers. I had to pierce that armor, not as a threat, but as a co-conspirator. I drafted 5 separate emails. They were masterpieces of professional concision. The subject line was the bait, confidential regarding recent payments to Nova Riyadh Ascension LLC. The body of the email was the hook, Ms. Linwood, Dr. Marrow, Mr. Hale. My name is Skylar Blackstream. I am an estate attorney at Helix Gate Legal Collective. I am conducting a confidential financial review in a private capacity. My research has identified a pattern of non-standard, high-value payments to the above-named entity, which appears to be a shell corporation registered to a mail drop. I believe you may be a party to a coordinated fraudulent enterprise. Your name and testimonial are being used to solicit further funds. And then, the proof. I attached one file, a single, heavily redacted PDF. It was a page from my joint bank account statement, showing the $50,000 wire transfer to Nova Riyadh Ascension LLC. I blacked out Curtis's name, but I left the memo line, in all its pathetic glory, fully visible founder's contribution. I looked at the clock. 4:45 p.m., the perfect moment, the end of the workday. They would be tired, their defenses down. Checking personal emails one last time. I hit send on all 5. The first reply came in 9 minutes. Harper Linwood. It was one sentence, sent from her phone, sharp as a subpoena. If this is an attempt at extortion, you have misjudged your target. I will be contacting the state bar and the district attorney by morning. I replied immediately. Ms. Linwood, this is not extortion. I am not an adversary. I am a victim. The founder's contribution on that statement was made by my husband. The second response was a phone call. My burner phone rang. The one I had bought with cash. An unknown number. It was Brooke Valencia. Her voice was thin, trembling with rage. Who is this? How did you get my name? What is this file? Are you telling me the retreat is not real? Brooke, I said, my voice calm. My name is Skylar. I am not calling to hurt you. I am calling because she is using you, and she is using my husband, Curtis. She is taking our money. A reply from Dr. Elise Marrow hit my inbox. I have forwarded your communication to my legal counsel. You are instructed to cease and desist all contact. My reply. Marrow. Your counsel is welcome to join us. But this is not a legal threat. It is an offer of shared intelligence. The woman using your medical reputation to sell supplements is the same woman who took $50,000 from my husband last month. We are on the same side. Marcus Hale and Damon Price remained silent. It took another 24 hours of careful, agonizing back and forth. I had to expose my own humiliation, my own shame. I had to show them I was not a lawyer on the attack, but a wife in the same burning building. My vulnerability was the only key I had to unlock theirs. Finally, I got them. A secured, encrypted video conference. 9 p.m. Their faces appeared in the boxes, wary and hostile. Harper, in a severe silk blouse, her office perfectly lit behind her. Brooke, looking like she had been crying, wrapped in a blanket, wineglass in hand. Elise, sharp and analytical, already looking like she was interrogating me. And to my surprise, Marcus Hale. He was just a silhouette, his camera pointed at a bright window, his voice gravelly. You have 10 minutes, Ms. Blackstream. Damon Price never replied. I filed his name away as a loss. Good evening, I said. I'm waiving all pretense. We are all here because we were targeted by Nova Kincaid. We were all conned. I shared my screen. I did not show them a redacted file. I showed them the spreadsheet, the one I had named Q4 Household Expenses. This, I said, is the pattern. I showed them the columns, the dates, the LLCs, the wire transfers from my account, the memo lines. Then I showed them the timeline of her Instagram posts, perfectly matching the dates of Curtis's business trips. She told my husband he was her angel investor, I said. She told him he was the founder of her new brand. She has taken $115,000 from him in 10 weeks. The silence that followed was heavy, sick. Then Harper Linwood unmuted. Her voice was nice. A founder. That's interesting. She told me she saw me as a mentor. She cried in my office about her childhood trauma and said my money was to establish a pro bono scholarship fund for other female entrepreneurs. A scholarship fund. Brooke's voice was a sharp, bitter laugh. She told me I was her co-founder. A female-led wellness empire. She said my $50,000 was to secure the deposit on the first international retreat location. Retreat, Elise Marrow cut in. She told me she had a graduate degree in nutritional science from a Swiss clinic. She said my money was to fast-track FDA approval for a proprietary line of supplements. She was using my professional credibility to validate her snake oil. Finally, the silhouette, Marcus Hale, spoke. She didn't sell me to charity. She sold me on ego. His voice was low, filled with self-loathing. She told me I was the only man she'd ever met who truly understood her billion-dollar global vision. She said my investment was a private seed round. She told me she was already in talks with sovereign wealth funds. She was selling me equity in a ghost. It was all there, the bespoke con. She had found each of our deepest insecurities: Harper's savior complex, Brooke's feminist pride, Elise's medical reputation, Marcus's wounded ego, and crafted a perfect fantasy to exploit it. I stopped sharing the spreadsheet. I let the collective humiliation hang in the virtual air. She played us all, I said, my voice quiet. And she played my husband, but she made one fatal, arrogant mistake. She did not just take our money. She used my home as the central asset in her scam. I shared a new screen. It was footage from the guest house, the audio of Nova, on her video call, bragging about the Nova Rise Sanctuary and how Curtis was transferring the estate to her. Harper Linwood leaned so far into her camera I could see the pores on her skin. Her eyes, the eyes of a killer litigator, were bright. She's selling memberships to a property she doesn't own. That, I said, is textbook wire fraud, and I have the deed, the trust documents, and the bank statements to prove it. So what's the play? Marcus asked. This is the play, I said. We do not go after her individually. We do not send angry lawyer letters. That just scatters the roaches. We unite. We become a single, unified case. We pool every piece of evidence. Your emails, Marcus, your texts, Brooke, Elise. I want those supplements. Harper, I want you to draft the complaint. We will assemble a file so heavy it will break her. And then, Harper asked, and then we let her walk right into the trap. She believes my husband is giving her my house. My husband, in his arrogance, is planning to publicly kick me out. I am going to let them. And when Nova Kincaid steps 1 foot across the threshold of Blackstream Reserve, claiming to be its new owner, we will be ready. We will use my home not as her prize, but as the stage for her public execution. There was a long, heavy silence. These were people who guarded their privacy, their reputations. Above all else, this was a massive risk. Harper spoke first, a thin, cold smile playing on her lips. I'm in, but I'm coordinating the legal filings with the state. Elise nodded, her face grim. I will have those supplements sent for a full chemical analysis by morning. I have texts, Brooke said, her voice hard. I have DMs. I have the pitch deck she sent me. I'll get you everything. Marcus Hale just said, send me a secure link. You'll have my full wire history by midnight. The alliance was formed, a secret, powerful, and deeply furious team, brought together by one con artist and the lawyer she had just made the mistake of evicting. We are back at the gate. My chest is still stinging where the papers hit. Curtis is breathing heavily, his chest puffed out. He has just delivered his grand monologue. You have 36 hours. He is playing the part of the victor, the conqueror, and he needs his audience to applaud. I can see Mrs. Davies, still frozen on her balcony. I can see the jogger, who has now made a pretense of stretching, his back to us, but his head angled just right. I see the red recording light of the phone in the landscaping truck. They are all my witnesses, and I see Nova Kincaid. She is standing by the black SUV, and she is not just watching, she is posing, she is feigning embarrassment, one hand lightly touching her throat, but her body is angled perfectly. She is turned just so, ensuring that the jogger, the neighbors, and any recording phone can clearly see the gold script logo on the vehicle door, Nova Rise Sanctuary. This is not just my humiliation. This is her launch party. This is free. Viral marketing. So, if you have ever been in this spot, if you have ever had someone throw paper in your face and tell you that your life is over, that you are being replaced, that you are worthless, I see you. You stand there, and you feel the shame. You feel the rage. You feel like you have nothing left but the clothes on your back and the gravel under your feet. But I am here to tell you something. The most interesting part of the story does not start when you scream. It starts when you shut your mouth, go inside, and open the file. The heavy black iron gates of Blackstream Reserve, the ones my trust paid for, began to slide shut. The hum of the motor was the only sound. It was a slow, final punctuation mark. Curtis did not look back. He opened the passenger door for Nova, a gallant gesture for his new queen, and they got into the SUV. They drove away. I stood there until the gate clicked shut, sealing me inside, alone. I pulled my phone from my pocket, not my personal phone, the burner. I opened the encrypted group chat I had created 2 nights ago, the one with Harper, Brooke, Elise, and Marcus. My fingers were steady. I typed one sentence. Ultimatum delivered. 36-hour countdown. I hit send. Almost instantly. The icons appeared at the bottom of the screen. Harper Linwood is typing. Brooke Valencia is typing. Marcus Hale is typing. The clock was running. My first calls were not to my lawyer. They were my staff. I called Rosa, my housekeeper, who had been with my mother before me. Rosa, I am so sorry. I lied, my voice filled with fake frustration. We have a major plumbing leak in the main house. They are having to shut all the water off for at least 2 days for repairs. Please, take the time off. Full pay. Of course. I will call you when it is fixed. She was worried. I reassured her. I told her I would be staying at a hotel. My second call was to Miguel, the head gardener. I gave him the same story. The water is off. Do not worry about the irrigation. Just take the next 2 days. It is a mandatory break. Paid. The board was now clear. No witnesses, no collateral damage, just me, Curtis, Nova, and anyone I specifically invited onto the property. I went to my office, the secure one, from a locked drawer. I retrieved the new equipment I had purchased with cash from a spy shop downtown, a tiny wide-angle lens camera, smaller than a coin. I walked to the main foyer. It was a grand, 2-story space designed to impress. I climbed a small stepladder and nested the camera into the leaves of a large, potted fig tree that sat on a landing. It had a perfect, unobstructed, high-angle view of the front door, the console table, and the entire grand staircase. Next, I took my old smartphone. I had already wiped it clean. I turned it on, set it to voice memo, and activated the record indefinitely setting. I plugged it into a slim battery pack. Then, I slid the phone into the narrow space between the back of the heavy marble console table and the wall. The foyer was now a hot zone. The server closet was recording every camera outside. The new mini camera was recording the entrance. The burner phone was recording all audio. Not a single word spoken in this space for the next 36 hours would be missed. Curtis came home late that night. He was alone. The bravado from the gate was gone, replaced by a performance of somber, false kindness. It was almost more sickening. I was in the master bedroom, pulling a suitcase from the top of the closet, when he walked in. "Oh," he said, his voice soft. "Hey, I can help with that." He walked over and took the suitcase from my hands. He placed it on the bed and opened it. "I thought I could help you get a head start. No reason for this to get any uglier than it already is." He went to my closet. He started taking my blouses, the ones he had bought me, the ones I had bought myself, and began folding them. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of it. I stood by the door, watching him. I kept my voice perfectly neutral, almost curious. "It is just happening so fast. Curtis, I am worried about you." He stopped folding. He looked at me, confused. "Worried about me, Skylar? I am the one who's fine. I know, it is just all these new expenses, this new life. I was just looking over our joint accounts. All those consulting payments to Nova Riyadh Ascension. It is a significant amount of capital. Curtis, I just want to make sure you are protected. Is that part of her new plan? He stiffened. His back went straight. I had challenged her. You do not know what you are talking about, he said, his voice turning cold. I am a trust lawyer. Curtis, I said softly. I know what a $5,000 consulting fee looks like. This looks like a $50,000 investment. I just do not want to see you get hurt, he laughed. It was a sharp, bitter sound. The kind husband evaporated. The conqueror was back, fueled by his own profound insecurity. Hurt, he scoffed. You are still thinking in such small terms. That is your problem, Skylar. You always have been. You do not get it. You never get the big picture. I just waited. Help me understand, I said. That was all he needed. His ego was dying to brag. He needed me, the small-minded lawyer, to finally understand the scope of his genius. This is not some thing, Skylar. This is an empire. This is a global brand. Nova is transforming Blackstream Reserve. This place, this whole stuffy, boring estate is going to be the flagship, the Nova Rise Sanctuary Global Retreat Center. I kept my face a perfect mask of resigned confusion. A retreat center. Here, Curtis, the zoning. Zoning, he spat. That is all you see. You see rules. We see potential. She is already selling the founder memberships. They are almost sold out. We are talking millions in the seed capital. Skylar, millions. Before we even open the doors. Something you, with your dusty old trust documents and your billable hours, could never, ever understand. She is an innovator. She is a visionary. And you are just overhead. He said it. He said the magic words. Selling the founder memberships. My cameras were rolling. My audio was recording. He had just, on tape, admitted to being a knowing participant in a massive conspiracy to commit wire fraud. He zipped my suitcase, an act of aggressive finality. 36 hours. Skylar, he said, his voice low. Actually less now. The clock is ticking. He pushed past me and slammed the door to the adjoining guest room, where he had been sleeping for weeks. I walked out of the bedroom. I did not bother with the suitcase. I walked down the grand staircase, my hand on the cool, smooth railing I had chosen. I stood in the center of the dark foyer, the moonlight streaming in through the glass, painting the marble floor in silver and black. Tomorrow, Nova Kincaid would pull up to this house with a moving truck, ready to claim her prize. She would walk through that front door, thinking she was arriving at her new home. In reality, she was arriving at the primary crime scene of her own case, and I would be there to take her statement. It was the final night. Less than 12 hours to go. I was in the library, the one room Curtis never entered. It was my mother's design, filled with dark wood, leather-bound books on tax law, and a silence so deep it felt protective. I opened my secure laptop, one by one. Their faces populated the grid. Harper Linwood, looking exhausted but energized, a litigator's battle-ready expression firmly in place. Brooke Valencia, no longer crying, her face set in a mask of cold fury. Dr. Elise Marrow, all business, a stack of files next to her. Marcus Hale, still a silhouette, but I had a sense he was leaning forward. And a new face. Damon Price, the tech founder. He had finally responded, not with an email, but with a text. She took $100K from me. 2. Send the link. His camera was on, showing a sparse, modern office, his eyes dark with a familiar burnout. 6 of us, an alliance of the duped and the furious. Good evening, I said. We're on the clock. Marcus, you're up? Marcus Hale unmuted. His voice was all gravel. I did my own deep dive, he said. He shared his screen. It was not a simple spreadsheet. It was a complex, flowchart-style diagram, lines connecting boxes and names. She's not an amateur, he said, his cursor moving. Nova Riyadh Ascension and Sanctum Harbor Retreats are just the beginning. I found 2 more LLCs, filed in Wyoming and Delaware. Ascension Wellness Ventures and NovaSource Strategies. All 4 entities are separate, but they all route back to the same single registered agent. More importantly, they all list the same financial consultant in their incorporation documents. A guy operating out of a waterfront office in a completely different city. This isn't a one-woman show. This is a professionally designed financial model. She's just the face of the operation. A heavy silence fell over the group. This was bigger than we thought. Harper was the first to speak, her voice tight. This complicates things. This consultant, if this is a professional operation, this moves from simple fraud into RICO territory. My name, my professional reputation, if I'm listed as a complainant in a case this messy. She did not need to finish. I understood. We all did. We were all people who lived and died by our reputations. She was a divorce attorney. Elise was a scientist. Marcus was a fund manager. Brooke's entire brand was her name. Being a victim was a stain. I won't minimize the risk. Harper, I said, my voice firm, cutting through her hesitation. It's a huge risk. They will try to paint us as fools, as jilted lovers, as incompetent. They will leak your name. They will leak all our names. We have to assume that. But the alternative is letting them move on to the next city, the next group of founders, using our names and our money to do it. Silence is complicity, and I, for one, am not going to be complicit in my own destruction. She won't get the chance, Dr. Elise Marrow said. She held up a clear plastic baggie containing a dozen bright blue capsules. These are the supplements Nova sold me, the ones she claimed were a proprietary blend of nootropics and Swiss botanicals that would optimize cellular performance, the ones she was using my name to sell. She looked directly into her camera. As I told you, I sent a sample to a private lab my company uses for toxicology screening. I got the preliminary report back 3 hours ago. She shared her screen. It was a chemical analysis report. There are no Swiss botanicals, Elise said, her voice dripping with contempt. There are trace amounts of caffeine, a massive amount of B12, and this, she highlighted a line. This is a compound that is chemically similar to a controlled substance. It's an amphetamine derivative, an upper. It's not illegal in this form, but it's not approved for human consumption, and it is absolutely not listed on her label. She wasn't selling wellness. She was selling a cocktail of cheap speed and vitamins to stressed-out executives. My God, Brooke whispered, her hand going to her mouth. I took those. She gave me a welcome gift box. Which means, Harper said, her legal brain spinning. She is not just committing wire fraud. She is violating federal food and drug laws. She is mislabeling controlled substances. That gives us a different kind of leverage. It gets worse, Brooke said, her voice hardening. I did my own homework. She didn't just use my testimonial. She actively used my name. 2 of my best clients, 2 women I've known for years, called me yesterday. They were embarrassed. They wanted to know if the founders' membership for Nova's retreat was really a good investment. I felt my blood run cold. She pitched them. Yes, Brooke said, her voice rising. She used my name. She told them I was her partner and that I had vouched for the entire operation. She offered them a special Friends of Valencia discount, $20,000, instead of $25,000. They both paid her. I saw Marcus Hale typing furiously. What are their names? Brooke gave them. I'm adding them to our secure chat right now, Damon Price said, speaking for the first time. His voice was quiet, intense. The group is now 7, 8, counting your husband, Skylar, as a hostile witness. Which brings me to my part, I said. You have all seen the financial fraud. You have seen product fraud. Now, I want you to see the asset fraud. I shared my screen. I did not show them a bank statement. I showed them the cover page of the Blackstream Legacy Trust, and then the signature page, and then the county registrar's official deed for the property. This is Blackstream Reserve, I said. This is the deed. You will note there is only one owner listed, the Blackstream Legacy Trust. And here, I clicked, is the trust document, naming the sole trustee, Mr. Skylar Blackstream. I let them absorb it. My husband has no legal claim or title to this property, none, and neither, I said, does Nova Kincaid. Every founder membership she sold, every share of this sanctuary she pitched, was based on an asset she has absolutely no legal right to. She was not just selling a fantasy, she was selling air. She was selling something that belongs to me. I then showed them the amendment Ben and I had drafted, the tripwire. This is the plan, I said, my voice low and clear, the voice I used in a closing argument. The goal tomorrow is not to have a dramatic, screaming fight. This is not about revenge. This is about prosecution. Tomorrow, our job is to get Nova Kincaid to incriminate herself, on camera, on audio, on the very property she is committing fraud to obtain. We do this by the book, Harper cut in, taking over. She was in her element. We do not wait. We file tonight. We front-load the evidence. We do not go to the police, not yet. We go to the agencies. We spent the next hour assigning roles. It was a war room. Harper. I will draft the initial complaint. I will file it electronically tonight with the State Consumer Protection Division, referencing wire fraud, misrepresentation, and deceptive trade practices. I will CC the State Bar. Marcus. The financial side is mine. I will package my report, all 4 LLCs, the consultant's name, and our combined wire histories. It goes straight to the Financial Integrity Bureau's hotline. I will flag it as active, coordinated, high-value interstate fraud. Elise. I will write a full timeline, complete with the lab report. That goes to the Regional Health and Products Enforcement Unit. I have a personal contact there. They do not take unlabeled controlled substances lightly. Damon. I'll handle security. Our chat is secure, but I'll migrate us to a new server. All of your files. Harper's complaint, Elise's lab report, Brooks' texts, my emails. I will collate all of it into a single, encrypted digital evidence locker. I will send a time-locked link to the authorities and a copy to Ben Carter, Skylar's partner. Brooke and the 2 new members were our social media team. Their job was to go through every post, every story, every webinar, and screenshot everything. Every time Nova posted a picture of my pool, every time she used the word sanctuary, it was another nail. By 9 a.m. tomorrow, I summarized. Before she even arrives, the official complaints will already be in the system. The case will be open. Exactly, Harper said. When she walks into your house, she is not walking into a trap set by an angry wife. She is walking into an active investigation, and everything she says, she smiled, is admissible. We signed off. The screen went dark. I sat in the library. The silence of the house pressing in on me. The weight of what we had just done, the forces we had just set in motion, was enormous. A soft knock came on the library door. I did not bother to hide the laptop. Come in. Curtis opened the door. He did not step inside. He looked awful. His face was a sickly, pale gray. His hands were shaking. The bravado he'd had when he was packing my suitcase was completely gone. What is it, Curtis? I asked, my voice flat. I just got a call, he whispered, as if he was afraid the walls were listening. It was from Roger Breland. Roger Breland, his biggest client, a notoriously difficult tech billionaire who accounted for nearly 30% of Curtis's entire portfolio. Okay, I said. He said he'd heard a rumor, a disturbing rumor about me, about Nova. A rumor. That she's running some kind of scam. That's what he said. He asked me if I was personally compromised. He said if his name was associated with anything unseemly, he would pull his entire fund by morning. Ah, so Marcus Hale had not just been filing reports. He had been making calls, a quiet word from one fund manager to another, a professional courtesy. Get your boy in line. He's mixed up with something toxic. I looked at my husband, the man who, 24 hours ago, had thrown divorce papers at my chest and told me I was overhead. He was terrified, but as I looked into his eyes, I saw the truth. He was not afraid of losing me. That was already done. He was not afraid of the scam. He was a willing participant. He was afraid of losing his reputation. He was afraid of Roger Breland. He was afraid of being poor. He was looking at me, his eyes pleading. For the first time in months, he was looking at me, his wife, the lawyer, the problem solver, begging me to fix this. I offered him nothing. "That does sound disturbing, Curtis," I said, and I closed my laptop. "I guess your 36 hours just got a lot more complicated. Good night." I turned my back on him, leaving him to stand alone in the doorway, choking on his own fear. The sun rose on the 36th hour. It was a beautiful, clear morning, the kind of day that makes the estate look its best, the lawns gleaming, the glass of the house reflecting a sharp blue sky. I was already dressed, black trousers, a dark silk shell, a tailored black blazer. I was dressed for a deposition. I heard Curtis moving around in the guest room. He was a man possessed by a nervous, twitchy energy. He was not just a husband ending a marriage. He was a man about to pull off what he thought was the greatest deal of his life. He was jittery. Like a junior associate before a big presentation, he left before I even came downstairs. He sent a text at 7:03 a.m., going to coordinate with the movers and pick up Nova. "I expect your things to be gone when we return." I did not reply. I was alone in my house. I walked through it, room by room. I ran my hand along the cool granite of the kitchen island I had spent 6 weeks sourcing. I walked into the dining room and touched the heavy oak table where we had hosted his bosses, his clients, our friends. I stood in the library, my sanctuary, and looked at the shelves, the quiet order of the books. This was not a grave. This was not a place to be buried. This was my ground. This was the battlefield I had chosen, and I knew every inch of it. My burner phone, the one I had designated for the Alliance, began to chime. It was a cascade of notifications, a coordinated assault, 8:15 a.m., a message from Harper Linwood. It was a screenshot of an automated email receipt. "Your complaint has been successfully filed with the State Consumer Protection Division. Your case number is 88-1942. An investigator will be assigned within 2 business days." Underneath it, a text from her filed, and I've already messaged a contact at the AG's office, referencing the case number and flagging it as time-sensitive, multi-victim fraud. The fuse is lit. 8:45 a.m., an email from Dr. Elise Marrow. "My contact at the Regional Health Products Enforcement Unit has received the lab report. He was disturbed. He is expediting a formal review and said the phrase unlabeled amphetamine analogs gets their immediate attention. He's opening a file." 9:02 a.m., a forwarded email from Marcus Hale. It was a confirmation receipt from the Financial Integrity Bureau's online portal. "Your report has been received and flagged for review." Marcus's note below was simple. Done, and the rumor I started with Roger Breland seems to be circulating well. Curtis Beck is now officially toxic. The pieces were in motion. The reports were filed. The case numbers were issued. We were no longer just a group of angry victims. We were an active, multi-agency investigation. I went to my office and pulled up the security feed from the front gate camera. The street outside was quiet, as always, but I was looking for something specific, and there, about 100 yards down, parked under the shade of an oak tree, was a dark blue, unmarked sedan, standard government model. Inside, 2 men in suits, pretending to be on their phones. My phone buzzed again. It was Damon Price. A little birdie told me the FI Bureau is doing a passive surveillance drive-by of the asset in question. Looks like they're observing. They were here. They were not intervening. Not yet. They were just watching. The trap was set. And now, the audience was arriving. The hours ticked by. 10 a.m., 11 a.m. I drank a cup of black coffee. I stood at the large window in the living room, looking out over the pool, my pool. At 12:17 p.m., the gate camera feed flickered to life. A A vehicle was approaching, not Curtis's car, it was a black SUV. The one with the gold script logo Novarise Sanctuary, the one that I knew, from a quick license plate check by Damon, had once been registered to Brook Valencia. Nova was driving, and right behind her, a small, slightly beaten-up moving truck. It slowed, pulling up to the call box. The truck itself was a masterpiece of cosmic irony. The decal on its side, in cheerful, bubbly letters, read, "Where New Lives Begin." I watched on my monitor. Nova did not use the call box. She rolled down her window, her arm, covered in gold bracelets, reaching out. She was holding a new gate opener. Curtis had given her one. She clicked it. The heavy iron gates of Blackstream Reserve began to swing open. As the SUV passed the gatehouse, I saw her. She had her phone mounted on the dashboard. She was live streaming. I could see the little red live icon on her screen. I heard her voice, tinny through the gate microphone. "And we are through the gates. Everyone welcome. Welcome to the official first day at the Novarise Sanctuary. Look at this, the pool. The main house I am promising you. The content I am going to create from this private estate is going to change your lives." She was narrating her own triumph, selling memberships, live, as she drove up my driveway. The SUV pulled to a stop in the circular motor court, right in front of the main doors. The moving truck parked clumsily behind it, blocking the fountain. Curtis got out of the passenger side. He looked terrible. He had not slept. His suit was wrinkled. He was pale and vibrating with anxiety. He had a client threatening to leave, and a mistress demanding a house. He was trapped between two nightmares. Nova sprang from the driver's seat. She was wearing a flowing white linen jumpsuit, her hair perfect. She looked like the goddess of a very expensive cult. She held her phone up, still recording, panning across the front of the house. "Curtis, baby, get the mover started," she called out, her voice bright and performative for her audience. "Nova, wait," Curtis said, his voice a low, desperate hiss. He grabbed her arm. "Listen, we need to wait. Skylar is still in there. Let me go in first. Let me just talk to her. Make sure she's gone." Nova snatched her arm away from him, her smile tightening. The camera was, for a moment, pointed at the ground. Her voice dropped, no longer performing for the live stream. "Absolutely not," she hissed. "The deal was she was gone. I am not waiting in the driveway. This is my house now. Curtis, you promised me. I am walking in first." "This is my moment." She turned, raised her phone again. Her smile plastered back on. "Okay, everyone. The grand entrance. The start of the new frequency." Curtis, defeated, his shoulders slumped, just followed her. Nova did not knock. She grabbed the heavy brass handle of my front door, the one I had salvaged from an estate in France, and threw it open. She burst into the foyer. Her arms spread wide, her phone held high to capture the 2-story ceiling, the chandelier, the grand staircase. "We are home," she shouted to her followers. She took a deep, theatrical breath, as if inhaling the very essence of her victory. She spun in a little circle on the marble. "It's perfect," she breathed. "It's all perfect." She turned to the two movers who were standing awkwardly on the front steps, holding a large, gaudy, abstract painting that I knew would not fit anywhere. "You," she commanded. "The master suite, top of the stairs, all the way to the left. It's the biggest one. All my things go there first." The foyer was silent, except for her voice echoing slightly on the stone, and in that silence, I made my move. I had been standing at the top of the landing, just out of her immediate eye line. I began to walk, my heels clicking, one by one. On the stone steps of the grand staircase, click, Nova stopped spinning. Her smile froze. She looked up. Curtis saw me first. His face went from pale to the color of ash. "Skylar?" Nova's eyes followed him. She saw me, the new owner, the mistress, the abundance coach, and me, the wife, the overhead, dressed in a black suit, descending my own staircase. Her eyes narrowed. The confusion lasted only a second, replaced by pure, cold arrogance. She was in charge here. She had won. "Skylar," she said, her voice dripping with pity. "I thought Curtis made this clear. Your time is up. You really need to go." I continued my descent. I did not stop until I was on the main floor, standing about 10 feet from her. I looked at her. I looked at the movers holding her painting. I looked at Curtis, who looked like he was about to be physically ill. I kept my voice light, calm, and almost curious. The voice I used for a hostile witness when I wanted them to talk. "Are you sure you know whose house you're walking into?" "Nova." She opened her mouth. A sharp, practiced retort was on her lips. She was about to put me in my place, live, for all her followers. Before she could speak, I held up one hand, a simple gesture to pause. I walked past her to the marble console table, the one with the burner phone hidden behind it. I took my other phone, my real one, from my blazer pocket. I placed it on the console. I tapped the screen once, bringing a group call to life. I hit the speakerphone button. The volume was all the way up. "Ladies, gentlemen," I said, my voice clear and bright in the suddenly silent foyer. "Shall we begin?" A new voice filled the air, sharp, precise, and full of legal fury. It was Harper Linwood. "My name is Harper Linwood," the voice echoed off the marble. "This call is being recorded. Am I speaking with Ms. Nova Lisa Kincaid, owner of the LLC Nova Riad Ascension?" Nova's mouth was open, her live stream forgotten, her audience of founders staring at a high-angle shot of my foyer ceiling. Curtis looked at the phone on the console table as if it were a grenade. The two movers, still holding her garish painting, were frozen on the doorstep. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Harper's voice was just the opening salvo. I held up a single sheet of paper, my voice strong and clear, an instrument of legal precision. "I am addressing Nova Lisa Kincaid, also doing business as Nova Riad Ascension LLC. State registration number 88B4, also doing business as Sanctum Harbor Retreats LLC, registration number NV731, and also doing business as Nova Rise Sanctuary, for which you are currently soliciting funds using this property, Blackstream Reserve, as your primary asset." The blood drained from Nova's face. Her eyes darted from me to Curtis. This was not the defeated, weeping wife she had planned for. This woman knew the names of her shell companies. Harper's voice cut through the silence again, cold and sharp from the speakerphone. "Ms. Kincaid, this is Harper Linwood. I am confirming a wire transfer of $30,000 sent from my account to yours, under the fraudulent guise of establishing a pro bono scholarship fund, a solicitation you made in my office, which you then, I've discovered, used as a background for your webinars without my consent." Before Nova could process, the next voice came. "This is Dr. Elise Marrow. I am confirming a payment of $40,000 for product development. I am also confirming that the supplements you sold me, using my professional reputation as validation, have tested positive for an unlabeled controlled amphetamine analog. A full report has been filed with the Regional Health and Products Enforcement Unit." "This is Brooke Valencia," a third voice, shaking with rage, burst from the phone. "You used my name. You used my private client list to sell founder memberships to 2 of my clients for $20,000 each, claiming I was your business partner." Finally, the low gravel of Marcus Hale. "Marcus Hale, my contribution was $75,000 for a private seed round. The total confirmed wire fraud from this group alone exceeds $215,000, and that, Ms. Kincaid, does not include your latest mark, Curtis Beck." Curtis did not move. He was a statue of gray ash. He was listening to his script, the lines she had whispered to him in the dark. "You're the only one who understands my billion-dollar vision. You're the only one brave enough to fund my dream." He was hearing his private, special fantasy, the one that made him the conqueror, being recited back to him in a horrifying chorus. He was not her one visionary. He was just the last fool in line. Nova's face snapped. The shock evaporated, replaced by a pure, cornered animal rage. Her abundance mask did not just slip. It shattered. "You think you are clever," she hissed. her voice a low, vicious snarl. She took a step toward the phone. All of you. You pathetic, washed up. You think you can scare me? You have no idea. She turned her venom on Curtis. You, she screamed, pointing a shaking finger. You weak, pathetic man. You let this happen. Then she laughed, a wild, high-pitched sound. You want to play? You want to file reports? I have something better. I have a hard drive. It is right upstairs, in his study. Every message, every pathetic, needy email, Marcus. Every drunken, crying voicemail. Harper, I have videos. Curtis, I have audio files of you. Elise, plotting against your CEO. I have everything. You push me, and I release it all. I will burn your careers, your marriages, and your reputations to the ground. You want a war? You have one. She was breathing hard, her eyes bright with victory. She had the ultimate leverage. The hard drive, I said. My voice was calm. She froze. The hard drive in Curtis's study, I continued. Upstairs, the room that is, like this foyer and every other room in this house, is the legal and sole property of the Blackstream Legacy Trust. I pointed up, to the corner of the high ceiling, where the tiny dark lens of the camera I had installed was aimed directly at us. A small red light was blinking. And the one in the fig tree, and the one in the library, and the audio recorder behind this table. You see, Nova, as of last night, I authorized a full security sweep of my property. Every camera and microphone is actively recording and uploading, on an encrypted loop, to a cloud server registered to my law firm. I took a step closer. Your attempt to store blackmail material on my property and your subsequent public threat to disseminate it to commit extortion has just been witnessed and recorded. You did not just add to your charges, you just became a federal case. As the last word left my mouth, the doorbell rang, a loud, clear chime that echoed in the dead silence. The two movers, who had been witnessing the entire implosion, dropped the painting. It hit the marble floor with a loud, discordant crash. Ma'am, we're just gonna go. You will stay right where you are, I said, my voice firm. You are material witnesses. Curtis flinched as if he had been struck. Nova's head snapped toward the door. I did not move. I pulled out my real phone, the one with my security app. I tapped the screen. I pressed unlock gate and then unlock door. I spoke not to them, but to the intercom panel by the door. Please come in. Gentlemen, we are in the main foyer. The heavy front door swung open again. 3 people walked in, 2 men in nondescript dark suits, and 1 uniformed deputy sheriff, his hand resting calmly on his belt. Ma'am, the first man said, his eyes scanning the room, landing on me. I'm Investigator Rilke, Financial Integrity Bureau. This is Agent Cho, State Consumer Protection Division. We're here at the formal request of the property owner, Ms. Skylar Blackstream. Nova's hand, the one that had been holding her phone, went limp. The phone clattered onto the marble floor, the screen cracking, her live stream, broadcasting her grand entrance to all her founders, ended in a burst of white static. We are here to speak with Ms. Nova Lisa Kincaid, Rilke said, his voice flat. She is right here, I said, gesturing calmly. Agent Cho stepped forward. He looked directly at Nova. Ms. Kincaid, you are not under arrest. However, I am informing you that you are not required to say anything. We are here investigating several official complaints, including case number 881942, alleging coordinated wire fraud. I must also inform you that the owner of this property, he gestured to me, has informed us that this entire room is being recorded as part of her own security detail. He looked at his file. Ms. Kincaid, we have received a complaint alleging you have been soliciting and accepting founder memberships for a business venture using this property, Blackstream Reserve, as its primary asset. Can you confirm for us if you are the legal owner of this property? This was it. Nova looked at the officers. She looked at me. She looked at Curtis. And she did the only thing she knew how. She cycled through her personality, First, the victim. "I don't understand," she stammered, her eyes filling with tears. "This is a mistake. She," pointing at me, "is a crazy, jealous wife. She's lying, Curtis. Tell them this is our house." Second, the seductress. She turned to Investigator Rilke, her voice dropping, becoming soft and breathy. "Officer, I think there has been a terrible, terrible misunderstanding. My partner Curtis handles all the boring paperwork. I'm just a visionary." Rilke did not blink. "We also have a complaint from a Dr. Elise Marrow regarding supplements. Can you tell us about those, third the rage, supplements?" she shrieked, the tears vanishing. "This is insane. I don't know what you're talking about, Curtis." Agent Cho cut in. "We also have an Instagram post from your account, timestamped this morning, claiming you were taking possession of this private estate. Can you show us the deed of sale?" "Curtis has it," she screamed, frantic. "It's our house. He gave it to me. He's transferring it." "He cannot," I said quietly. "It is not his." Investigator Rilke gave a small nod to Agent Cho. Cho moved, pulling Curtis aside, out of the main line of fire. He spoke in a low, fast voice, holding up a single-page summary. I could see the header, "Summary of Evidence, Potential Co-Conspirator." He was giving Curtis the choice. Witness or target, cooperate now. Hand over the hard drive, his phones, his emails, and he might avoid being named in the primary fraud indictment. Curtis looked gone. His new life, his reputation, his money, it had all evaporated in 10 minutes. He looked past the agent, at me. His eyes were not asking for forgiveness. They were asking for permission. He was asking me, the wife he had just discarded, what he should do. I gave him nothing. I just held his gaze. He turned back to the agent. He took the pen. He signed the cooperation agreement. The deputy sheriff, who had been silent, stepped toward Nova. "Ma'am," he said, his voice polite but firm, "we would like you to come down to the station to answer a few more questions." It was not a request. He did not touch her. He did not have to. The fight was gone. Her face was a blank, pale, chalky mask. As the deputy guided her toward the door, she stopped. She turned back to Curtis, who was standing there, staring at the paper he had just signed. Her voice was a small, strange whisper. "Curtis, why? I did love you. You know that, right?" Curtis did not look up. He just folded the cooperation agreement, over and over, with trembling hands. Nova let out a small, broken sound, and the deputy gently guided her out. The heavy door clicked shut. I walked to the window. Outside, the neighbors were back. Mrs. Davies on her balcony, the jogger, but they were not looking at my house. They were all looking at Nova as she was escorted. Not in handcuffs, but in total disgrace. Down my walkway and into the back of the deputy's car. The house was silent again. Curtis walked to the console table. He picked up the thick sheaf of divorce papers, the ones he had thrown at my chest 37 hours ago. He placed them on the marble. His voice was a dry rattle. "Skylar I." He had no more words. I walked over. I picked up the papers. I smoothed them out, straightening the pages he had crumpled. "You signed these papers to impress her," I said, my voice soft, but it carried in the quiet. "And you just signed that cooperation agreement to save yourself. The one thing you never understood, Curtis, is that the only signature that ever mattered in this house was the one on the deed to the Blackstream Legacy Trust. And that name was never yours, and it was certainly never hers." I turned away from him. I walked into my library. I took the thick blue leather binder, my case file, and I placed the divorce papers on top. I closed the cover. Outside, I heard the sound of the investigators' cars starting. I heard the sound of the deputy's car pulling away. The engines faded. Silence. The rest would happen in courtrooms and in depositions. My story here is over. Thank you for listening to my story. I need to know your thoughts. So please comment below and let me know where you are listening from. I want to connect with all of you. Make sure you subscribe to Zoe Revenge Stories, like this video, And if you want more stories like this one to be heard, please support us by hitting that hype button.